Welcome to another fairy tale where the deep blue ocean waves will lull you to sleep. Take a deep breath, relax your mind, and feel the softness of the sand beneath your feet, the cool gentleness of the sea breeze on your skin. Let yourself drift with the gentle waves and listen to a story about greed and simplicity. Close your eyes, my friend, or let your gaze softly drift into the space before you. Either way, let your mind gently float along with the narration. Let this story guide you through peaceful beaches, tiny fishing boats, and to profound life lessons that await. And just like that, let the story begin.
Once upon a time, right by the deep blue sea, where white-capped waves gently kissed the sandy shore, lived a fisherman and his wife in a small, old, and leaky hut. Though simple, this hut had been their home through countless storms, witnessing many sunrises and sunsets over the vast ocean. Their lives were truly humble, flowing with the rhythm of the sea and its fish. Every single day, the husband, a kind and patient old man, would take his fishing rod to the sea. He didn't just go fishing to make a living, he also went to gaze at the clear blue water, to feel the immense tranquility of the ocean. He would sit there hour after hour, lost in the sights and sounds of the open sea, sometimes forgetting the passage of time. One beautiful morning, as the golden sunlight began to cast its first rays upon the shimmering sea, the old fisherman sat fishing as usual. He cast his line into the clear water and waited. Suddenly, his fishing bobber was pulled under, deeper and deeper, as if some powerful force was tugging at it. The old man tugged hard on his fishing rod and was utterly surprised to see that he had caught a large flounder, its scales gleaming under the sun. The strange thing was, as soon as he pulled the fish ashore, the flounder suddenly spoke, its voice clear and gentle, like the sound of flowing water. "Please listen to me, kind old fisherman. Please do not kill me. I am no ordinary fish. I am an enchanted prince transformed into a fish. If you kill me, it will do you no good. My flesh is not tasty at all. Please have mercy. Release me into the water so I can swim away, so I can return to my own world." The old fisherman, with a surprised but unafraid expression, simply smiled kindly. He had lived his whole life by the sea, he had witnessed many wonders, and he had a benevolent heart. He replied to the flounder, "Oh, you don't need to say many words. A flounder that can speak, I am ready to release it to swim away. I will not harm you." And so, the old man gently placed the flounder back into the clear blue water. The fish gave a soft flick of its tail, then slowly dove into the deep sea, leaving behind a shimmering trail like a rainbow in the water. After that miraculous moment, the old fisherman stood up, gathered his gear, and returned to his home. His old hut still stood there, peaceful as always. When the old man entered the house, his wife was sitting there, her eyes gazing out at the sea. She asked him, her voice as steady as usual, "Did you catch anything today?" The husband recounted the story in detail, his face still showing a hint of surprise. "No, my dear, I caught a flounder, but the fish could speak. It said it was an enchanted prince transformed into a fish, so I released it back into the sea." The wife, upon hearing this, her eyes suddenly lit up unusually. She looked at her husband, her voice a bit displeased. "So you didn't tell him what you wished for? You didn't ask the fish for anything?" The husband looked bewildered. "No, my dear. What should I have wished for?" The wife suddenly cried out, her voice starting to grow a little sharper, revealing her long-standing discomfort. "Oh dear, don't you feel miserable, uncomfortable, having to live in this shabby, smelly, dirty hut? You should have wished to live in a pretty little cottage. Go to the sea right now, call the flounder, and ask it for a small cottage. The fish will surely grant it to you." The husband hesitated. He didn't want to bother the fish he had already set free. "Well, why should I go out there again now? I've already released it." His wife then said, her tone full of determination, "Oh, fiddlesticks! You caught the fish and then released it. That was a good deed. The fish will surely grant you a cottage to live in. Just go and try." The husband still felt a bit reluctant, not wanting to go against his wife's wishes. Though he didn't want to at all, but not wanting to displease his wife, he reluctantly obeyed, put on his coat, and went out to the sea. When he reached the seashore, he saw gentle ripples on the water, and the sea's surface at that moment held a truly special color, a mix of blue and yellow, like sunbeams dancing on the water. He stepped closer to the water, took a deep breath, and then called out to the flounder with a song he had composed, his voice softly echoing across the water. "O brother mine, where do you dwell? O flounder, deep within the swell? My wife, whose name is Ilsebil, asks for what I do not will." Immediately, the flounder swam right to the surface, its eyes looking kindly at the old man. The fish asked him, "Well then, what does your wife desire?" The old fisherman, with a somewhat embarrassed and apologetic look, recounted, "Well, when I told her about catching you, my wife blamed me for not asking for anything. My wife no longer wants to live in the old shabby hut. She wants a small cottage." The flounder listened, then gently said, its voice still full of power but without arrogance, "Go home now. Your wife already has her cottage." The old fisherman turned back towards home, still half in disbelief. But when he arrived, he no longer saw his old leaky hut. Instead, before his eyes stood a charming brand new cottage with a fresh red-tiled roof and pristine white walls. And his wife was sitting on a bench in front of the house, her face radiant with joy. His wife took his hand, her voice full of excitement. "Come inside and see. Isn't this much better than before?" The couple stepped into their new home together. They moved from one surprise to another. Inside, there was a cozy waiting room, a pretty living room simply but tastefully decorated. The bedroom had a comfortable bed, the dining room was clean, and the kitchen was neatly arranged, tidy and beautiful, with gleaming copper and tin pots and pans. Behind the house was a small, pretty yard where chickens and ducks waddled about, and a little garden filled with green vegetables and fruit trees laden with branches. His wife looked at her husband, her eyes sparkling with happiness. "Do you like what you see?" The husband gazed at everything, his heart filled with contentment. He replied, his voice full of sincerity, "Yes, my dear. If it can just stay like this, we'll be perfectly content from now on." His wife smiled, but in her eyes there was still a small glimmer of something not quite satisfied. She said, "We'll have to think about that again." Life in the charming little cottage was truly peaceful and comfortable. The fisherman and his wife enjoyed their new days with a cozy kitchen, a fresh green garden, and their little chickens and ducks. The husband felt utterly content, thinking that this was enough for a peaceful life. However, after about 15 days of living in this new comfort, the wife suddenly felt a strange restlessness within her. One morning, as the sunlight was just beginning to stream through the window, she said to her husband, her voice carrying a hint of dissatisfaction, "Listen to me, husband. This house, though pretty, is too cramped. The yard and garden are also too small. I think the flounder could give us a much larger, grander house. I'd like to live in a large, sturdy stone castle. Go to the sea now, tell the fish and ask it to grant us a castle." The husband was utterly surprised to hear his wife say this. He couldn't understand why she would want more when everything was already so abundant. He said, his voice a little confused, "Heavens, what are you thinking, wife? This house is perfectly fine. What would we do in a castle?" His wife snapped, her voice becoming more resolute. "Oh, go to the sea. The fish will surely grant it. The fish can certainly do that, and it will surely be willing. Just go and try." The husband felt truly awkward. He didn't want to bother the fish, nor did he want to be overly demanding. He muttered to himself, "How ungrateful." Nevertheless, not wanting to go against his wife's wishes, he reluctantly got up and walked out to the sea. When the old fisherman arrived at the seashore, he noticed the sea was no longer as brilliantly blue and golden as before. The water was strangely calm, but it now held shades of purple, deep blue, and gray, and it appeared murkier, not clear. A strange and somewhat somber feeling enveloped the air. He stepped closer to the water, took a deep breath, and again called out to the flounder with his familiar song, his voice tinged with regret. "O brother mine, where do you dwell? O flounder deep within the swell, my wife, whose name is Ilsebil, asks for what I do not will." The fish immediately swam to the surface, its eyes still kind, but seeming a little more thoughtful. The fish asked him, "Well then, what does your wife desire?" The old fisherman bowed his head, saying awkwardly, "Oh dear fish, my wife wants to live in a large castle." The fish listened, said nothing more, and simply replied concisely, "Go home now. Your wife is already standing at the door waiting for you." The old fisherman turned back towards home, silently thinking he would see his old cottage again. But no, when he arrived, a majestic sight unfolded before his eyes. Instead of the small cottage, there now stood a large stone castle, towering and imposing. His wife was standing on the high steps, her face full of pride, about to step inside. She took her husband's hand, her voice brimming with excitement. "Come inside and see." The couple walked into the castle together. The floors were paved with gleaming marble, and the grand wooden doors opened automatically as if by magic. All four walls were covered with vibrantly patterned wallpaper, brightening the entire room. Every room was furnished with gilded and lacquered tables and chairs, sparkling crystal chandeliers hung from the ceilings, and plush velvet carpets adorned all chambers and rooms. On the tables, exquisite dishes and fine wines were laid out in abundance, showcasing a life of utmost luxury. Behind the castle was a spacious courtyard with stables for horses, cowsheds, and splendid carriages waiting. There was also a vast and beautiful garden planted with all kinds of fragrant flowers, exotic plants, and rare fruit trees laden with fruit. There was even a large park, about half a mile long, for recreation and leisurely strolls, where many ornamental animals such as deer, stags, and rabbits were kept. His wife asked, her voice full of satisfaction, "Well, what do you think? Isn't it beautiful?" The husband gazed at everything, overwhelmed by the splendor. He replied, his voice full of admiration,
By God, if only it could stay like this forever. Living in a beautiful castle like this is contentment itself. His wife smiled, but her eyes still held a glimmer of unfulfilled desire. She said, her tone a little vague, "We'll have to think about that again. Now, let's go to bed." The next morning, the wife woke up before her husband. The first light of dawn was just breaking, shining through the castle window. Lying in bed, the wife looked out into the distance. The scenery of the fields was incredibly beautiful, stretching to the horizon. But her eyes no longer gleamed with contentment. She nudged her husband gently with her elbow, waking him up. "Wake up, husband, look out the window," she said, her voice full of eagerness. "Don't you see? Couldn't we be king of this whole region? Go to the sea and tell the fish, we want to be king." Her husband, still sleepy, was startled by his wife's words. He couldn't believe his ears. "Heavens, my dear, what would we do as king? I don't want to ask the fish for that." The wife began to grumble, her voice growing more demanding and resolute with each word. "All right, you don't want to be king, but what if I want to be queen? Go to the sea and tell the fish, I want to be queen." Her husband sighed. He found this utterly absurd. "Heavens, my dear, what would you do as queen? I don't want to tell the fish that." "Why not?" snapped his wife. "You just run to the sea for me. I must be queen." The husband went to the sea, his heart heavy, his steps weighted down. He walked, thinking repeatedly, "How ungrateful, utterly ungrateful." He hesitated, not wanting to go to the sea, but then had no choice but to go, for he could not resist his wife's will. When he reached the seashore, he saw that the sea had completely changed. The water was now dark gray, and it began to boil up from below, emitting an unpleasant, foul odor. The sea was murky, no longer clear and pristine as it had been initially. He approached the water, his heart heavy, and called out to the flounder, "Oh, brother mine, where do you dwell? Oh, flounder deep within the swell, my wife, whose name is Ilsebil, asks for what I do not will." The fish appeared, its eyes looking at the old man, seemingly with a hint of weariness and disappointment. The fish asked, "Well then, what does your wife desire?" The old man bowed his head, his voice full of remorse. Oh dear, fish, my wife wants to be queen." The fish said, "Go home now, your wife has become queen." The old man turned back towards home. When he arrived, he saw that the castle had become much more colossal than before, now featuring a large, brightly adorned watchtower. Before the gates, there were even guards, with soldiers beating drums and trumpeting loudly. Stepping inside the castle, he saw only glistening marble, precious velvet carpets, and golden chests overflowing with jewels. The palace doors were wide open, and the entire court was present. His wife was sitting on a towering throne, her head adorned with a glittering golden crown, holding a golden scepter inlaid with jewels. On each side, 6 ladies-in-waiting stood in a line, each a head shorter than the one before, showcasing her absolute authority. The husband approached, his voice a little surprised and hesitant. "Well, my dear, so you've become queen?" His wife, with a face full of self-satisfaction, replied, "Yes, now I am queen."
He stood there, stunned, admiring his wife for a long time. Then he said, his voice holding a glimmer of hope that this would be the stopping point, "Are you content, my dear, now that you are queen? Surely you have no more wishes?" "No, I am not content, husband," his wife said, her voice filled with restlessness. She continued, as if a new thought had just occurred to her. "Time passes and I grow weary. I cannot live like this forever. Go to the sea and tell the fish, I am queen now, but now I must be empress." The husband, hearing this, felt dizzy. "Heavens, what do you want to be empress for? You cannot keep wanting more and more." His wife remained unyielding. "You just go to the sea and tell the fish, I want to be empress." "Heavens, my dear," the husband tried to explain. "How can the fish possibly have the power to make you empress? I dare not even say that to the fish. An empress rules a great nation. There is only one in the whole country. How can the fish possibly do that? To make you empress, the fish cannot do it. It surely cannot." His wife looked at him with eyes full of anger and contempt. "What are you talking about? I am queen. You are merely my husband. Are you going now? Go to the sea at once. If the fish can make me queen, it can also make me empress. I want to be, and I am going to be empress. Go at once." The husband had no choice but to go to the sea. This time, he went with extreme fear, walking with a nagging worry. He thought to himself, "This cannot be. What will become of this? To demand to be empress is shameless, truly brazen. In the end, the fish will grow weary of these things."
When he reached the seashore, the sight was terrifying. The sea was now pitch black, murky, and began to churn with enormous waves. The wind howled and the thunderous waves crashed against the shore, making him shiver. He approached the water, struggling to keep his footing in the rising storm. He called out to the flounder, his voice lost in the wind. "O brother mine, where do you dwell? O flounder deep within the swell! My wife, whose name is Ilsebil, asks for what I do not will." The fish appeared, but this time it no longer swam up gently. It emerged amidst the great waves, its eyes silent and full of disappointment. The fish asked him, its voice seemingly carried away by the wind, "Well then, what does your wife desire?" The old man, his voice trembling with fear, said, oh dear fish, my wife wants to be empress." The fish said, "Go home now. Your wife has become empress." The old man returned home, his heart heavy. When he arrived, the sight before him overwhelmed him. The entire castle was now made of gleaming marble, reflecting light brilliantly. Surrounding it were intricately carved white stone statues and magnificent golden decorations. Before the gate, majestic guards patrolled, and soldiers blew trumpets and beat drums, their sounds echoing throughout the region. Dukes, counts, and viscounts, splendidly dressed, bustled about inside, showing their reverence. They opened the gates of pure gold for the old man to enter. Stepping into the room, he saw his wife seated on a golden throne 2 yards high, glittering under the lights. Her head was adorned with a golden crown 3 palms high, studded with precious pearls and diamonds, radiating brilliantly. In one hand, she held a scepter of power, and in the other, a glittering orb, symbolizing her empress title. On either side, imperial guards lined up in 2 rows, from giants 2 fathoms tall to tiny dwarves no bigger than a little finger, all bowing in reverence. Before the empress, numerous lords and viscounts stood attending, demonstrating her supreme authority.
The husband advanced to the center, his voice trembling with extreme fear and astonishment. "My dear, have you become empress yet?" His wife, with a cold and authoritative expression, replied, "Yes, I am empress now." He stood there, gazing at his wife for a long time, unsure what to say. Then he spoke, his voice conveying a sense of weariness and a fragile hope that this would be the final stop. "Heavens, my dear, do you like being empress? Surely you are content now and have no more wishes." His wife sat as still as a log, not moving or stirring. Her face showed no hint of satisfaction. Then she spoke, her voice resolute, like a command. "Husband, why are you just standing there stiffly? I am empress now, but now I want to be pope. Go tell the fish." The husband was utterly terrified. He couldn't believe his ears. "Heavens, what else do you want to become in this world? You cannot become pope. There is only one pope in the entire Catholic world. The fish cannot do that. It cannot do it. It surely cannot." His wife looked at him with eyes full of anger and defiance. "Do you hear me? I want to be pope. Go to the sea at once. I want to be pope today." "Heavens, my dear," the husband pleaded, "I dare not tell the fish that. It cannot be. That is utterly ungrateful. To make you pope, the fish cannot do it. It surely cannot." His wife flew into a rage, her hair disheveled and wild. She leaped up, stomping her foot at her husband and shrieking, "I cannot bear it! I cannot bear it for one moment more! Are you going now?" The husband hastily put on his clothes and ran like a madman. He knew he could no longer defy his wife. Out at sea, a furious storm was raging. Waves surged, crashing against the shore with terrifying force. The old man could barely stand. His entire body trembled. His muscles felt like jelly, his legs like borrowed ones. Houses and trees shook, and the distant mountains seemed to shift, large rocks tumbling into the sea. The sky was pitch black, thunder roared, and lightning flashed continuously. The sea churned with monstrous waves, black as pitch, as high as church steeples, like mountains, with sea foam on their crests resembling giant white crowns. Far off, ships were tossed about by the waves, appearing to dance with the sea. They fired distress signals in vain. In the sky, there was a tiny blue cloud, but all around it, dark clouds covered the entire sky, signaling an unprecedented great storm. Terrified and cowed, the old man struggled to make his way to the seashore. In the blinding tempest, the old man tried to shout, but he couldn't even hear his own voice. "Oh, brother mine, where do you dwell? O flounder deep within the swell, my wife, whose name is Ilsabil, asks for what I do not will." Amid the roaring of the storm, the flounder still appeared, its eyes serene, devoid of any emotion, only an indescribable coldness. The fish asked him, its voice seemingly carried away by the wind, "Well then, what does your wife desire?" The old man, his voice lost in the wind, said, "Oh, dear fish, my wife wants to be like the beloved Lord God himself." The fish said nothing more. Only a cold and definitive reply rang out amid the storm. "Go home now. She is sitting in the old hut as before."
And when the old man returned, the magnificent castle, the guards, the throne, all had vanished. Before his eyes, there remained only their old leaky hut right by the seashore. His wife was sitting there on the bench in front of the hut with an empty expression and lifeless eyes. And the couple, from then on, remained in that hut, living the simple life they had started with,
but now perhaps carrying deep lessons about greed and contentment. And so the story of the fisherman and the flounder ends. It reminds us that sometimes simplicity is the key to happiness, and boundless greed can make us lose everything we have. The sea, with all its vastness and power, had given and it had taken back, leaving a perpetual lesson about balance and knowing when enough is enough. Take a deep breath and feel the peace of the night. Let this story gently guide you into peaceful slumber. All wishes, all worries, let them settle. You are slowly drifting off to sleep, and a deep, sound sleep awaits you. May you have the most beautiful dreams, my friend. Good night.